And that's why what the government can do to make markets work. For example, if just to answer your question specifically, if they procure the basic things from all farmers, it is not going to absorb all the input of all the output of all the farmers. But in the process, farmers will learn. For example, in Orissa Millet Mission, we found, or it has been found in the dairy industry everywhere, that if there are proper measurement mechanisms which farmers learn. For example, in Orissa Millet Mission, the first year when farmers got their output, they found when they gave it to the center that the moisture was high and they took it back 50 kilometers. Then they are not interested in bringing it back. So next year they provide the moisture meter at the village level itself. And what happens is through government procurement, there's a huge capacity building of individual farmers, type 1 APOs and type 2 APOs that in turn will make them strong market players. We have found that if people are saying if I can aggregate ragi and sell, why can't I aggregate makka and sell? So slowly it helps people to say, how do I do the aggregation across various commodities? So the government programs can act as a fillip for, because capacity building here will not happen through a class. I mean, in a training program, it will happen through real life learning. So these are the various measures which will make small farmers active market players. So we are saying don't treat them as incapable peer capable people, but develop their capacity to become market players. So all the paper is attempted towards that.
Anyone else has any query, questions, comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, Miss Sangamitra, are you satisfied? Because we quickly, I responded and
Yes,
then, is that fine? You
yes,
had
sir.
something
Yes,
else?
currently no, sir.
Because you talked about export of something, right? So I was wondering if
Yes, sir.
um,
Export of sugar.
export of
Sugarcane.
sugar,
Sugarcane.
sugar,
Yes.
you mean sugar?
Sugarcane. I think WTO has tracked India for to restrict the sugarcane export.
Okay. So it is sugar export, but it's fine. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you,
So
sir.
Sanjay Verma, can you please elaborate what you mean by how the funds will get prioritized and available? I'm not clear what you're trying to say. Sanjay?
Responding. Hello,
Yes.
I'm Sanjay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, thanks. I got your point, but the point is what I'm making is that whenever we talk of such a capacity developmental initiative, which definitely government has to take initiative, you are right. But how actually we can mobilize such funds? Because it will be a huge fund requirements at various levels, and how are we talking of convergence through the existing programs where the funds are available, or some fresh allocations or some fresh schemes have to be launched to really address your accommodation? That is what my point is.
Right. Okay. So let me first clarify. We are recommending procurement only for PDS and government consumption, right? We are not recommending procurement for other crop groups. Is that clear point? And hence the amount of money required is much less than procuring everything by the government. In fact, we are saying government should not procure that which it doesn't require. And even where the government has to procure, instead of government procuring like FCI procuring, we are saying can a type 2 CBO procure, store, process, and supply to the government. So the role of government in operations should be minimized. Government's role will be in funding and monitoring. So this will also largely take care of the so-called inefficiency of the government or inefficiency of the FCI equivalent. And for
Yeah.
all other things, we are talking about ensuring price and not procuring. And that's why there's a separate mechanism given everywhere. For commodities and essential commodities, we are saying something else. For oil seeds, we are saying something else, and so on. So,
Yeah, thank you. Can I make one more point?
sure.
Yeah. So what I mean to say that when we are heavily dependent on central approaches, so how vis-a-vis, and you say, and I see further that whether the decentralized system of governance we have in India, and which is now have been now actually came in focus for last few years, where the panchayats have to play a critical role, and we are focusing on developing our entire strategy around that, where we are devolution the powers as funds, function, and functionaries. So why we still have a central like a central approach to all our suggestions and things? Why not panchayat should come up and will, because FPOs are working within the domain of the panchayats. FPOs
Right.
are working within the domain of the panchayat. So why we are not talking of linkages and actually empowering the panchayat who derive the powers from the constitution itself?
Right.
Why? Yeah, that is what my point is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So first of all, let me clarify that if you go through the paper, we have said what do we expect from central government and what do we expect from the state government. All right. For example, this whole PM Asha thing, which is about stabilizing the prices of many commodities other than the PDS procurement, is actually in the state bucket. It's not in the central bucket. All right. Second thing we are saying is make procurement at the district level to start with, because that is the currently the functioning arm of the government. Going below that at this point of time immediately. So first go from central to state, state to district, right? And then we can see further what can be further democratized, because it's easy to say give it to Gram Panchayat, but even to give it to state government is a big problem. For example, you may be aware that the millet order was passed in 2005. The millet order said that if the state government procures millets and distributes in the PDS, to that extent they will draw rice and wheat less from the central government, right? And government will reimburse the millet cost. Now this has been implemented somewhat in Orissa and one or two states, because states are saying that why do I make effort for operationalizing, because the credit will go to the center. So there's a larger issue of handing over the whole thing along with the scheme and budgets to the states and then further down, right? So it will go back to finance commission and those kinds of things. So yes, in principle we are talking towards decentralization, but operationalizing that would involve a major set of reforms in the whole budgeting system and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This FPO lead Reliance Foundation.
Can you please unmute and share your
Okay. Sorry, that's actually so the name has been come. This is Partha from.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, there's a name which has appeared wrongly.
Okay.
Okay. So has nothing to do with the Reliance Foundation actually. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So the point that I wanted to share is, see, I think a lot of the experiences are coming perhaps from the Odisha experience, where perhaps MSP has been working well, especially with millets. But if we look at the experience of the role of government in other states, be it Maharashtra or be it states like Telangana, MSP actually it has been written with inefficiencies, and also it is not in alignment with market practices. So actually government is absorbing a lot of losses, and commodities are being released in the market at the wrong time, which is actually affecting both the market as well as the producers. So these kind of issues have been happening. So in this context, is it a kind of isn't it contradictory to be suggesting an increased role for government rather than actually looking at uh, you know uh, uh, other options where the government has a lesser role,
Yeah. Okay.
at least in the operations? Yeah.
Sure. So, in fact, let me reiterate what we are saying. What we are saying is a type 1 FPO will bring it to the procurement center. Second, a type 2 FPO will store, process, and deliver to a ration shop or ration shops as the case may be. So, what the FCI is doing will be done by a type 2 FPO, right? So, at operation level, the role of FCI will be drastically cut down. Am I clear? Yeah. Secondly, this has been tried out not only Orissa Millet Mission, but there's a large Type 2 entity in Maharashtra called Maha FPC, which has done these kind of operations for NAFCO. What do you call that? Not NAFCO. What is the procurement agency which does
NAFED, NAFED, you mean?
NAFED. So they have done large operations for NAFED. Correct. So it is possible for a Type 2 FPO to do what FCI is doing, and all the calculations of FCI can be passed on to them, and the money can be paid to them. So what we are saying is government will pay for it, but not do it. Doing will be by Type 1 and Type 2 FPOs, and hence the efficiency, etc., will be much better with them. The costs also will be much lesser. Thirdly, we are saying procurement will happen locally. So today we are procuring in 10 states and distributing all over India. So instead, procure at the respective district. So your cost of procurement, which today is about 30% of the cost of the grain itself, that can come down drastically. So these are the things which I have recommended in the paper. So we are not recommending a higher role for the government in operations. We are recommending a higher role for the government in ensuring that MSP is available, not procuring everything. There's a difference. Yeah. I think
Jaswant Bhai from Kushidan has.
Yeah, Jaswant ji has raised his hand.
Yeah, thank you, sir. ये पूरा जो स्टडी है उसमें सर मैंने 12-13 साल कच्छ में काम किया है ना। इस पर बचाव और कच्छ रेनफेड एरिया में ही काफी किसानों के साथ मैंने काम किया हुआ था। मगर इसमें जो दो चीजें आ रही हैं कि एक तो एमएसपी वाली बात चल रही है, जो एमएसपी में एफपीओ और अदर्स का रोल्स में काफी सारे अभी के जो एफपीओ को भी इश्यू है और क्वालिटी साइड भी इश्यू है ना, क्योंकि एफपीओ के पास वर्किंग कैपिटल अवेलेबल नहीं है और स्टेट के मॉडल नाफेड और 3-4 एजेंसियों का जो पूरा स्ट्रक्चर्स है वो पूरा इतना वो अच्छे तरीके से नहीं है कि हर कोई एफपीओ हर जगह पर हर इंटीरियर एरिया के किसान को आप देखने की कोशिश करेंगे कि रेनफेड के कितने किसान के इंटीरियर एरिया के इसमें एमएसपी में पार्टिसिपेट किए लास्ट 2-3 साल के आंकड़े, तो कुछ आप हमें और अच्छा कुछ रिकमेंड करने का मौका मिलेगा। दूसरी बात है कि ये जो मार्केट वाली चीज चलती है उसमें रेनफेड किसान के दिमाग में 2-3 चीज चलती है ना, क्योंकि उनके यहाँ रेन अनसर्टेन है ना। आप ड्राई लैंड में कर रहे हो तो वो 2-3 तरीके की चीज सोचता है। वो 2 साल का वो अपना खुद का प्रोडक्शन स्टोर करने का पहले सोचता है ना। फिर उसमें दिक्कत वो है कि आपका लैंड की फर्टिलिटी और वो इतना कहीं अच्छा है कहीं अच्छा नहीं रहता है, तो बैकवर्ड साइड में भी वो काम करना बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है, क्योंकि उनका मॉइस्चर बेस्ड रेनफेड में कैसे उनका पहले प्रोडक्शन बढ़े, क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं रहती, क्वालिटी नहीं अच्छी आती इसलिए मार्केट में वो उनको चैनल में दिक्कत आती है। एंड देन फिर और इश्यू है टेक्निकली, क्योंकि उनके जो प्रोडक्ट बनते हैं वो बाय डिफॉल्ट अच्छे हैं, नेचुरली एक समझ के हिसाब से अच्छे हैं, मगर कंज्यूमर मिडिल क्लास जो अपने इंडियन कंज्यूमर स्टाइल जो है ना, उसमें ये कॉस्टिंग बैठता नहीं है। ये मेरे ख्याल से हम लोगों ने 8-9 साल तक इसमें मशक्कत की, मगर कहीं ना कहीं हम इतने सक्सेस नहीं हो पाए और शायद अभी भी उसमें वही चीज चैलेंज आ रही है। तो मेरे ख्याल से ये सब चीज जो भी इसमें किस तरह से लाकर उनको डाले तो और अच्छा हम 2-3 साल में और कुछ अच्छे कर सकते हैं। अदरवाइज ये सेम प्रोसेस में ही आ जाएगा, कहीं कहीं लोग कहीं स्टेट के लोग आगे हो जाएंगे, मगर ओवरऑल जो रेनफेड के किसान है उसकी ये सिमिलरिटी है। तो मॉइस्चर बेस्ड अथवा तो कम हवा से कैसे वहाँ प्रोडक्शन बढ़े, 2 सीजन में क्या वहाँ हो सकता है, वो आता है तो वो उनका प्रोडक्शन आएगा, क्वालिटी आएगी, एंड देन फिर वो मार्केट में जाएंगे और सरकार से और क्या बोलते हैं स्टेट लेवल पर हो या मिनिस्ट्री सेंट्रल मिनिस्टर, तो उनका वो मेरे ख्याल से इकट्ठा होकर जाने का मन करेगा। अदरवाइज तो इनकी खुद के इतने वो रहते हैं कि वो वहां तक सोचने का कोशिश नहीं करते। थैंक यू सर।
ओके, मुझे जो समझ में आया उसका जवाब दूंगा, और बाकी जो मेरे ऑथर मित्र है वो भी उसमें ऐड कर सकते हैं। आपने जो पहले कहा कि जो प्रोडक्शन ऑफ प्रोडक्टिविटी की बात है, तो एक्चुअली आरआर नेटवर्क जब स्थापित हुआ था तो उसमें पहले पेपर लिखा गया था, तो वो क्या कहते हैं उसको, ज्यादातर टेक्निकल चीजों के ऊपर था, जो एक उस समय का जो 12th 5 ईयर प्लान है, वो सब जो एक चैप्टर बन के वो उसमें ऐड हो गया था। तो हम उसको यहाँ से रिपीट नहीं कर रहे, हम सिर्फ मार्केट रिलेटेड चीजों पे यहाँ बात कर रहे हैं। देयर आर लॉट ऑफ आइडियाज और रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑन द टेक्निकल साइड इन टर्म्स ऑफ managing water, managing productivity, and so on and so forth, which has not been covered in the paper because this paper itself has got so many subjects. We can't cover everything in one paper, right? So, और दूसरा जो बात है कि हम ये कह रहे हैं कि लास्ट 2-3 साल की आप बात कर रहे हैं, तो लास्ट दिन 2-3 जहां जहां अभी देखिए 10 स्टेट्स ने अभी डिसेंट्रलाइज किया प्रोक्योरमेंट को। जो पहले पंजाब और हरियाणा और यूपी में होता था, अब 10 स्टेट्स में होता है। और जैसे मध्य प्रदेश में आप जाएंगे तो मध्य प्रदेश का जो कृषि का क्या कहते हैं स्तर बढ़ता गया, रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ बढ़ता गया, उसके पीछे भी एमएसपी प्रोक्योरमेंट है। उड़ीसा में है। तो सभी जगह इफ यू आर एबल टू डू एमएसपी प्रोक्योरमेंट थ्रू अ प्रॉपर फैशन, इट विल बिल्ड द कैपेसिटीज ऑफ किसान, इट विल बिल्ड द मेक द एफपीओज वायबल एंड localize the economy. Of course, there is a counter argument to that, that what happens with Punjab, which is a separate subject, how to win away Punjab farmers, etc., etc. But there has to be a separate set of incentives for that, right? But if any other authors are picking up any point which I have not responded to for Jaswant Bhai, please feel free.
Seriously, just what I understood is that
Yeah.
I think he is making a point. These are very experiential field-based observations that he is learning, that he is bringing in. He's not really raising a big question there, but I think very specific to the agroecology and the context. So maybe we can take a note of it.
Yeah, sure. And secondly, just the separate thing. See, there are what is called as disadvantage of rain-fed agriculture, like the grains are not of the same size, etc., etc. There are actually very effective advertising ways to counter it, but that's a subject for another day. I have some very interesting examples from the industry of how handmade cotton was sold by showing that it is not uniform, and hence it is handmade, etc. So, but we'll talk about it separately. Partha, you have some other point? Sorry, Pawan.
Pawan, we can take Pawan if you are there. Can you unmute and ask your question?
पवन जी, हाँ आप तो है इधर। पवन जी, कैन यू प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ, आई मीन अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ। मिस्टर पवन।
Okay, Shirish, maybe you or somebody else can respond. So, basically asking how policies can
Yeah,
promote, how can
I am
policies
not,
promote
I mean, I
development of
thought
value?
this is what we discussed, but if he has any specific point, because जो वो पूछ रहे हैं, can policies promote development of value chains for rain-fed agriculture products, enhancing their profitability and sustainability? So, which is the point which we discussed. So, if he has any specific thing to ask, I'll be happy to answer that. Okay, let us take Partha's question before Mr. Pawan starts. Partha, can you state the question?
Yeah, see, import policies are actually affecting, especially in pulses, tur, and secondly in oil seeds also. Oil seeds, we are mainly, edible oil we are mainly importing. So has the paper actually looked at how the import policies can be stable and give a guidance to the farmers and institutions working with the farmers, because that is a huge uncertainty which brings it to the interventions.
Yeah. So what we have said, in fact, is that the government policy should be stable more than giving incentives. If the policy is stable, the farmer will take the clue and act, right? So we are saying two things. One is provide MSP. Secondly, push for higher limit per farmer so that there'll be a push towards crop diversification, which is technically very important, right? So these are the two things we are recommending, because what is happening is the government is intervening in the market, like suddenly buying something, stopping to buy something. So that volatility of the government action is a major cause of disturbance in the market, more than the natural causes. If that is stopped, then a lot of things will improve.
Any other queries or questions or observations, opinions?
Yeah, the other thing was also about where in states. I'm taking the example states other than Maharashtra, where MSP has been done through FPOs. It has been found that the government policy of doing the procurement through FPOs has been very erratic, and sometimes FPO they do the and that has also led to the downfall of several FPOs, especially in Telangana. In Pulses, we have several examples of FPOs that have happened. So here we are actually recommending to the government that give the operations, the MSP operations, do it through the FPOs. So how practical is it in the context of what is happening currently?
Yeah. So I'm saying currently, for example, the example which you gave of Telangana is true for all NAFED pulses states, whether it is Telangana, Karnataka, Maharashtra, everywhere, right? So stability of the policy is the key issue. And secondly, we are saying stuff just involving type 1 up to procurement involve type 2 as a substitute for FCI. And then type 2s can become a fairly bigger kind of organization with adequate muscle to it. That will kind of create an operational excellence of that. So now with government doing it is a part of political will and policy. That's what we are recommending.
It's
Now,
also
because
it's also
what happened in the pulses was that they procured pulses, but they did not know what to do with them. Correct? And hence they dumped it in the market, which was a disaster. So we are saying don't procure something which you are not going to consume. Let government not be a market player of buyer and seller. Right? So other than the PDS commodities, everywhere else just ensure MSP and not procure.
Yeah, it's also a chicken and egg problem with MSP and FPOs for the government, because uh, until there is MSP, it's difficult for FPOs to do that business of scale. And for the government, FPCs need to have that kind of thing to be able to do MSP. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem with.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm saying these recommendations cannot be implemented like an on-off button. In the sense they'll have to start, what should I say, piloting it, and then do it over a period of 3 to 4 years. Right? It can't happen that next year onward there are automatically type 2 FPOs will get created across the country. No, it will not happen overnight. Right?
Yeah. Anybody else has something else to say?
I think Sabya has joined. Sabya, are you trying to say something? You need to say something. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I have joined, 10 minutes back. Yeah, I was listening to the question and Q&A kind of a session. Yeah. So no, I do not have this point, but anything I will listen a little more if there are any further questions uh, or else we can see. Yeah, I'm just waiting for so all the questions and answers may be cleared.
So if nobody else has anything,
Okay.
any comment to make or any questions to ask, then should we?
No, so then if this is the clearance of this thing, then uh, okay. So there are two things that on the basis of the paper, there are a lot of nuances are involved into it. And then a lot of work been done by all the authors. And then I really appreciate all the authors for giving their time on a very long process of this paper writing and anchored primarily by Series J, and then also supported by Sandeep and others from both the Green Foundation as well as Brutti. If you think, if my question is to some of you who have been into the, trying to do a better marketing for the benefit of the farmers in the Rainfed or otherwise. Do you think that some kind of the learnings from the paper would require a bit of a more engagement with the people who are into the APO and market, and therefore we probably need to organize a session for our colleagues who actually deal the things on a day-to-day basis, particularly after the harvest. So probably what is required, what we can do. So if such kind of thing, then I'm happy that Partha has also joined, and Partha create such certain spaces in the skill green to invite people for their some kind of a capacity building process as well. So we can see that if it is required from the network, and we can request Series G and some of the authors to join, we can do that kind of a processes forward.
Sure. I think Partha has mentioned one point. Partha, we have not specifically talked about this particular issue, but what we are saying is what we are recommending, if it is done, it will definitely improve the resilience of the rainfed agriculture in terms of financial resilience, I'm saying, and also profitability of rainfed agriculture. So to that extent, people in rainfed agriculture will be less desperate and less deprived. People will have to still leave agriculture. The number of people who are dependent on agriculture in India is very large. So we don't want to say that more people should come into agriculture. That is not the purpose. But those who are in agriculture should live a decent life. That is the idea of the paper. So if agriculture becomes less risky, more resilient, more predictable, then it will kind of get its due place in terms of its market. I mean, its share in the GDP and better well-being for the people who are dependent on agriculture, right? Abhishek has raised his hand.
Yeah, Shirish, I have no technical questions, but just wanted to understand. So now that this approach paper is out, are we planning, and Sapyada, you also, are we planning to like take it to the government? Because I think Shirish earlier was asking also, has somebody joined who is at a decision-making kind of a position? So what are we trying to do with this? Are we going to like livelihood summit like Access does it, or are we going to do other bigger conferences, or are we going to do something with the government? I mean, present this. What will happen now?
Right. So we had a conversation along with the authors as well as the board of RRA network, and then we came out with some of the strategy that how this thing, this paper and the learnings from the paper, or the key message and key policy things that policy ask that we have, we will engage with uh, people who matters, right? And it is not as a mega event kind of a thing, but people who can matter in the policy making. So that process, Series G and some of the other authors have started to meet individually, taking to the people who are probably influential, both the state, some of the states, as well as in the national level as well. So this is part one. So we have some strategy which is more on a that is called individual consultation, small group consultation kind of a thing. And this is part one. And part two was that how these papers and its learning can be useful for the people on the ground, on both sides, both at the policy and on the ground, and how current work, and with this understanding which came out from the paper can be helpful for the people on the ground. So these are the two typology, one typology, these two typology.
In fact, if any other people who are present today here feel that we can talk to somebody at the state government level or at the central government level at an appropriate level, you are most welcome to reach out to us. We can have a one-to-one presentation to them because I believe instead of talking in a public forum, it's much better to talk these things at an individual level and at a more nuanced understanding and things of that nature. So if any one of people who are present here are having any contacts, we'll be more than glad to go over and meet. There are, I mean, if you read the paper, there are very specific recommendations on what the state government can do and what the central government can do. All right. So I think we can close.
I
So
think
if no one
yes.
else has anybody to add, we will close this webinar. Sapeda, we would like to say something.
Yeah, so my just request is that what we have presented today was just a few ideas. I will recommend you to read the paper. It's not a very long paper, just 20,000 words. And we try to make sure that we don't write long paper, okay? So that at one stage you can see the multifaceted nature of recommendations. And please feel free to contact us if required. Over to Sabya. Astad.
Do you want to add something or say something?
Astad?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you everyone that and particularly Sirish ji, and you have been the spearheader for this, not only bringing all the authors together. There is a lot of hard work has gone, lot of debate has happened. Some of we who were part of that debate in Brutti's office, we know that how we debated all these things, each and every points together. And thank you for all the patience and then hard work and all the authors as well. I am really grateful for them and that they have taken this up, and now this is out. And then all of you who have joined this webinar, I hope that some of the things that you will be finding appropriate for your work, probably some policy work as well as the groundwork. And we'll be happy to connect you with the with Sirish Ji, and if there are certain processes are required on the ground. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Sabya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Shirish.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
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 Thank you.